and what I have to offer. It is a time to be taken seriously. Then let's imagine every one of us of this kind of experience. How can be translated? Well, when I read it for the first time, maybe I have cried, because it is a sample that it is real, because I work with orphan persons with disabilities who come from all the corners of Albania, from Tirana, from Shkodra, from Saranda, from Korça, and so on, who are abandoned, who are alone, without love, who suffer every day in their life. So I am going to present a rose of hope toward a new neuropsycho-spiritual approach for personal formation of orphan persons with disabilities, which is the aim and the objective of this research. First, I would like to say that we come into this world without nothing, and we go to the end of our life without nothing too. Our material weight scale is always zero at the start of our life, and is always zero at the end of our life. So I mean material. But it is a different approach when I mean spiritual, because it affects everyone, everybody, much or less. So what we can do during our journey, if we grow our inner world, if you grow our personal, and if we grow our not only emotions but our way of living, no matter who we are. What about then for orphan persons with disabilities? A lot of the perspectives has tried to slightly touch this problem, because it is a big problem. Education, medicine, psychiatry, counseling, rehabilitation are trying to treat them in a holistic way, in a holistic manner. To my opinion, I would say that every program, clinical or whatever program, should not focus only on physical body, but on emotional and soul too, because we have to make a great thing for this person. We have to tell them that they really exist, regardless of their disability. There must be someone to tell them how to live, and how to enter into civil society as real persons. Italian Albanian Association treats this orphan persons as not only orphans with disabilities that we are always used to hear about from media or etc., but treats them like really persons with full rights to enter in civil society. So the aim of this research, of this intervention that I have tried to make, is not to highlight some of other researches that might highlight only differences, but tries to show the importance of a new model, the importance of a new approach, I would say better, that I have called neuropsycho-spiritual model, to try to change the life of these persons and try to give them a hope rose. And another objective is that I try to trigger more discussion, to find new ideas, new ways for the personal formation of these persons. So, operational definitions are a rose of hope, orphan persons with disabilities, personal formation, and neuropsycho-spiritual approach. Rose of hope. Why did I quote so? We are used to know that the green one means hope, since we were little, but green, maybe it was not so acceptable for me because we have a lot to do with these persons. And I called it rose because looking at it from a positive approach, and I called it as the first color toward the journey of being persons with hope. Green one. Orphan persons with disabilities are persons with impairments, cognitive, sensorial, emotional, development, and etc. They have restrictions in their capacity, and they have a lack of motivation to enter or to execute everyday life's actions. Personal formation. When I was a student, when I first began to study psychology, I was in the first year, and I remember an honored professor, which is the dean of the university, Ndoja, who explained to us for the first time in the subject of development psychology what does mean personal formation or personal development, that it is the pathway to go toward the personal growth. And I remember that he called a willful cooperation with natural to go in or to be included in a natural evolutionary process in all the stages of the life, but with one condition, that the person must be aware in a way to be truly effective. And so it includes its formal and informal activities in a way that the person can know more and more about his identity, his deficiency, or his talents. So to change the capacity in our life. What is neuropsycho-spiritual approach? We will learn it later. Then, what programs do exist actually to intervene for for personal formation of these persons? I tried, and I summarized some of them, which one, for example, is Larry, 202, who focused on spirituality, on psychiatric care. And there are some others, but I focused more on the last one. And a little at Kolbeck, who talked about moral, to learn them what is right and what is wrong, because it was a little more easy to intervene with this tragedy. But did this finding give to me the right answer? Certainly not. Because I was trying to make something else. I was trying to stimulate their system nervous, although damaged. In the first view, it damaged, but using psycho-spirituality approach. And then I asked, personal development as an essential prerequisite to spiritual development? Research methodology. This research was under a perspective with selected control trial. There were 24 participants. All they live in home families. 14 girls and 10 boys. research relies on the following strong question. Can we use the narrow psychospiritual approach as a moderator to move forward the personal formation of orphan persons with disabilities? Then, what is neuropsychospiritual approach in it itself? It's a new approach based on a combination of two fields, neuropsychology and psychospirituality, based on operational system presupposition, which cannot say what is definitely right or what is wrong, but I think it is acceptable to make an additional intervention care plan for persons with disabilities. It contains 4 challenges issues. The first one is a curriculum of historical roots, scientific and ethical strength. Historical roots. I began since I was a student and then a post-university student, following nearly the everyday life of persons with mental illness in different orphanages and psychiatrists of Shkodra and Tirana too. And always I have tried in my mind and with my professors and with other professionists how to minimize the disorder, because I couldn't see them so irritated or so angry all the time without meaning and without hope all the time. And I have had the occasion to work with an Italian social worker who has had 35 years of experiences in social services in Italy, and she helped me a lot to interview with this model, because at the beginning it was a little difficult for me because I had no model and I didn't know of which item to start. But then I hadn't not so much time in this position. I said to myself, just try and believe to your unconscious. It began last year as September 211. Ethical values cannot obligate a person to participate in something against their value or moral, because I have always invited them, do you want to make this or not? And I have respected their emotional mood. And it does not contain any mystical, occult or magical things. And with this intervention, I have tried to go beyond the obstacles, because we have to take into consideration that we have to do with persons with mental illness, moderate, intellectual deficits, mental retardation, who are not very severe, moderate and light. Scientific value. The program marks a starting because stimulates the nervous system the way he or she thinks. The inner feelings, changing important components in him or herself. The results invite a curriculum of qualitative data regarding the impact of this intervention, of this approach, through an intervention program, I Grow Up, because the course of personal formation, I called it I Grow Up. It is practical too, because it can be developed in a quiet place. Can be used individually or in group too. I would like to come a little bit of, I would like to explain from here. Here is the tree of exploration, because it is based on a basic research of the connection in operational system of the civilization, neuropsychology and spirituality. And I have done the tree of explanation, neuropsychological civilization. It is divided into presupposed testing, which is a standard base, and it acts as psychological filters. So, presupposed trusting, because it is a central base and it acts as psychological filters. In psychological filters, it does enter values, attitudes, and such things that can change the inner world of these persons. Presupposition of mental elaboration, the maps and the filters. The maps, here is, we have the territory and the mental map. So, the question here is not to try to change the territory, but to try to change a positive thinking in their mind. Also the match, to make them feel better. And psycho-spiritual presupposition. From a psycho-spiritual point of view, we use traditional psychological interventions. And according to this, we have to take outside the box the person, because he is closed or isolated in himself. So the first thing is to get the person out of the inbox, and then to try to enter in his soul, his or her soul. So I made a review of all the psychologists who has given a strong contribution on spirituality, and I can mention here the work of Viktor Frankl. He says that if we do not have a meaning in our life, we are frustrated all the time, and so we feel in vain to live anymore. And here does become the pathology. Carl Jung talks about individuation. And the dialogue with himself to grow the person insidely. Abraham Maslow talks about the scales to feel secure in our life. If we do not fulfill all these scales, it is impossible, because the higher the needs and the higher are the desires too. Carl Rogers too. He puts the person, the client, in the center, and he lets him to lead all the section to make him feel good and not be guided from the others. David Banner, he was the last one that I had studied. Because I had not studied during my university or post-university studies, but somebody gave me the book of David Banner, who has a postdoctoral studies in clinical psychology and lectures in a lot of universities around the world, spiritual lectures. And so I chose him to refer to him. So, the third issue, important one, practical psycho-spiritual techniques. According to Abraham Maslow, we have to set goals, because the client is in the present states. But how can he go to the desired state? It's a long pathway. And what can you do the next step? Managing of mental status, because we have not to let him so free, because he is not conscious of his actions, and so we have to manage. About managing of mental status is a physiologist, Ivan Pavlov, who talks about this strategy, anchoring. He says that we have to take the person and to put in a desired state, but under a conditional reflex. so controlling him all the time and making him believe that he is free. Then, personal development plan. Every week, they had to make a homework, what to do in the morning and what to do in the afternoon. And it was the plan, because the next time when they came to the course, they said it, for example, I have done this homework or I have not done. And why? Was it difficult or was it easy? So this was the personal development plan. And exercises. Exercises, I mean cerebral activity. And meditation too. Or reflection, the minutes of reflection. For example, after we have done a technique, they have to reflect and then to make a cerebral activity, like gymnastics. Neuropsychospiritual approach to a course of personal formation called I Grow Up. It is set to cut a 4-weekly program. It's a short intervention from Monday to Friday, thrice a week. 60 to 80 minutes, and it's held by me as a main investigator and supported from educators too. Topics: a combination of directional milestone. This has used David Banner too, and I really liked this kind of intervention because he had to feel that, not to learn by memory, by heart, but they had to feel that I really feel myself dependent, for example. And frequentation 20 to 20 participants. Clinical assessment. I have done a 3-dimensional valuation. Program readiness scales, a tool that captures an individual's willingness to engage in the program process. So, before we began, I asked every one of them, are you ready to participate? Not only are you ready, because it was a full section with this kind of questions to see their readiness, if they were ready to participate. Program responsibility scale, a tool to present potential responsibility factors in participation, compliance with methods, for example, or with techniques or with exercises, and response to program intervention and topic items in general. Program gain scale in total at the end to validate the full performance, their frequentation, what have they understood and what they didn't understood, or in which exercise did they not feel better, and so on. A 2-dimensional explanation of central base of neuropsychospirituality. We have a person here with a dysfunction. And what can happen if we stimulate the system nervous? We start by understanding his inner world. Will positive conditional technique and a quiet environment too. These are the factors to start the formation process. And what we have then? We have to take into consideration intrapsychic, mental, physical, and active. OPD are orphan persons with disabilities, not physical and social, but mental and intrapsychic too. And using psychospiritual techniques, because in this way we facilitate the pathway toward the formal personal process formation. And so we do all the time activities who are proposedly mental, spiritual structures activities, trying to connect them with each other and putting always a purpose and educating them all the time that this must not be done, we can do this again, etc. And at the end, we have the total effect. Yes. Okay. The reporting of data results. 24 participants with disabilities were analyzed. In the majority of them, qualitative differences between pre- and post-status were relieved. Typically, the changes appear to be concentrated in the middle frequency of program development. And at the end, I can say that these results show that the changes, minimal or moderate, in personal formation of these persons do not arise suddenly, but that there is a transition from pre-state to the post-state. Conclusion and discussion. This is the first study to interview and assess the personal formation through a new approach called neuropsychospiritual in the context of program intervention for orphan persons with disabilities. This approach in general was well accepted by participants because they felt really good. During the course, their interest, regardless of their mental deficits, remained high. Finally, findings suggest that this approach appears a feasible tool that marks the first step of a new clinically acceptable instrument to move forward the personal formation of orphan persons with disabilities. They are in a post-follow study. Limitation. It was not the time in this position to make other researches or to put other, to find other psychologists or something else, because this was to fulfill the plan care as one of the long-term objectives. The second limitation was a lack of standardized reporting observations. But possible confounding of this study include effect of facilitator. Because the facilitator